logos of the Italian Union of the Blind and Partially Sighted, the Pan-Cyprian Organization of the Blind, and the Finnish Federation of the Visually Impaired. Manifesto on the accessibility of sports and sport facilities.
Picture: a baseball mitt with ball with bells and a folded white cane on a lawn.
This manifesto was drafted in 2016 by the participants of the Sportability, Equality and Participation Through Sports project, co-financed by the European Union, logos of Erasmus Plus program and Sportability project.
Picture: project participants posing for a group photo. Some of them are waving their hands.
Adapted physical activities and sports have for children and adults with visual impairment the value of enhancing their abilities and what they can do.
Picture: an instructor is teaching a girl to throw a baseball.
Those activities, both in the form of individual and team sports, are aimed at developing not only motor skills in general, space perception and orientation, but also social and relational skills, inclusion and successful peer-to-peer cooperation due to the recognition of shared values.
Picture: in a gym, two girls are doing a stretching exercise holding each other's shoulders.
Unfortunately, physical education teachers and sports instructors are rarely in possession of the necessary knowledge to allow blind people to play sports.
Picture: sitting on the floor, participants are studying a tactile reproduction of a baseball field.
The high value of sport for people with disabilities makes it necessary to promote sport education for children and adults with visual disabilities by means of awareness-raising initiatives and activities organized in schools first of all, but also in private gyms and targeting the general public.
Picture: in a town square, two smiling participants riding a tandem.
The purpose of this manifesto is therefore to highlight a number of issues in the field of sport for persons with disabilities that require action by local, regional and national authorities to bring about a cultural shift towards a truly inclusive society.
Picture: notes written in different colors on sheets pinned on a wall.
We ask for the promotion of a training for teachers, and in particular for physical education teachers, on the sports that can be played by children and adults with visual disabilities.
Picture: an instructor is teaching a girl to play showdown.
Enabling students with disabilities to play sports with their peers at school, thanks to the adaptation of equipment and/or sporting regulations.
Picture: tall ball playing in a gym.
Governments to fund as a priority measure the architectural adaptation of school gyms and other public gyms so that they are fully accessible to people with disabilities, and to promote the same kind of adaptation in private sports premises.
Picture: two teams are playing tall ball in a town square.
Sport federations to encourage the study of adaptations enabling people with visual disabilities to play sports, and to support the training and activities of coaches and referees who decide to specialize in sports for people with disabilities, without discriminating between Paralympic and non-Paralympic sports.
Picture: two boys are playing fencing, others are watching them.
The involvement of people with disabilities and the organizations that represent them in sports activities organized at local, regional and national level, as well as in conferences and youth exchanges on sports.
Picture: participants cross their training foils imitating musketeers.
More awareness-raising events and demonstrative activities to help persons with disabilities to get into sports.
Picture: a judo instructor teaching two boys a judo grip.
It is important to recall that the inclusion of people with visual disabilities is fully implemented only when the adaptations that are necessary to ensure that these people have full access to everybody's activities are implemented in society and in the built environment.
Picture: participants' drawings on barriers in the built environment hung up on a window.
For this reason, it is necessary to use specific tools for the adaptation of ordinary sports, allowing visually impaired people to play them, for instance, baseball, fencing, etc., and playing sports specific for the blind, but that can also be played by blindfolded-sighted people, turbo, showdown, etc.
Picture: participants competing in a showdown match.
These tools and adaptations do not always entail significant additional expenses, and often they only require the adoption of simple measures such as
Picture: a girl handling a baseball with bells.
guidance paths on floors and walls of the corridors and locker rooms of gyms with different texture and colors. Sport fields and courts with ground signals in contrasting colors. Braille labels as an alternative to ink print signs.
Picture: an instruction on a girl looking at a tactile reproduction of a baseball field.
Balls with bells inside for turbo, goalball and baseball, etc. Accessibility of the websites of gyms and sport clubs.
Picture: participants competing in a showdown match.
Sport fields and courts that are designed for playing different sports, including sports for the blind and people with other disabilities.
Picture: in a gym, participants competing in a turbo match.
We hope that the Manifesto on the accessibility of sports facilities can be used to raise awareness of public authorities, educational institutions and individuals about the importance of sport accessibility, not only for people with disabilities, but for all citizens. The Sportability, Fun, Solidarity and Participation Facebook page dedicated to accessible sports has been launched. We hope it will become a living instrument for exchange of information and networking for people with disabilities and associations dealing with accessible sport at national and international level. Come and visit it! Logos of Erasmus Plus Program, Italian Union of the Blind and Partially Sighted, Pan-Cyprian Organization of the Blind and Finnish Federation of the Visually Impaired. With special thanks to Jessica Aversa, editing, and Maria Grosso, music, for making this video possible.